Here we go, John. I'd like to start this meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our country and for those who protect it. Thank you, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Okay.
Any adjustments to the agenda?
No, I just got some additional reports. I'll put under reports.
We're just going to reverse the order a little bit so we can get the project management report through, because they have a long trip in front of them. So first of all, we look over the approval, or look over the last meeting's minutes, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented to us.
I'll second it. All in favor? Thank you. Public comment.
I do have something I would like to say. When we come together as a community and we have disagreements, or if we have questions, it's always okay to ask. In reference to the budget and what we're spending on the cafeteria, I understand there's a lot of questions. And I think it's fair for people in the community to come and ask their questions. I think it's fair for our board members to ask the questions. What I don't think is okay, and what didn't set well with me, was some of the attitude in which I saw last week. I 100% as a taxpayer want to know why the increase. But I can ask that question in a way that isn't belligerent, rude, or disrespectful. And I was completely uncomfortable with the behavior of at least one of our board members last week. And I just needed to say that. We're all adults. We teach our kids to be questioned, to not just accept information that we're given, but to be inquisitive and ask questions. But we can do that in a way in which we would want students to ask us, or parents, kids to ask their parents. I just ask that we remember, ask your questions, be inquisitive, get the right answers that you're looking for, but do it respectfully. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so we are going to go right from number 5 down to 13, and I think Bill is actually going to start this off.
We have some guests introduce as we go, but prior to that, I wanted to just give you a little bit of background. 2 years ago, we began talking about projects after the idea of not doing an addition sort of bit the dust. And at that point in time, I began to put together the estimated project cost and tried to include some differences in it under contingencies to cover architectural fees and some other increases that may occur. So you'll see the numbers, and it was broken out into a bond that ended up being 5164862, not 11. Went to bond, and because of expenditure, the bond was broken by the attorney into 2 parts, so that we'd have money up front to begin the roofing projects immediately and get that off the ground, and then to move on to the others, knowing that the expenditures would extend over time. So, and I think I shared this previous, but as of the end of last month, this is the expenditures. And what's difficult about looking at these sheets is the fact that this is off of our accounting software, so therefore it's in an order of when it was expended, so it may not look like you can figure out what goes where. So, because I was asked by town council to give an idea of where we are and what that means and how it looks at that point, I did that, and I took all of those figures and put them into a sheet so that it would so that it would try to make some sense. Yeah. Okay, so at the top, although it isn't all of the budget for that particular part, the $75,000 that's at the bottom, you got attorney bond bank fees and legal fees, and those were upfront costs that we paid. And then under that, as I look at down through at the bottom of 75,000 plus parts of the unanticipated contingencies, all goes to Blatt Engineering, attorney's fees, all of those things, and topo maps and other engineering. I've got test boards that will be adding to it this month for the concrete part of it. And so those, and I haven't totaled them, but obviously that total is less than 170,000 set there at this point, but it's gonna climb as we go through it. We did some elementary grounds repair, playground repair that we did, cost me $69.35, and a hot top and drain was $34.50. I had estimated $24,000. The total cost was $10,385, so I'm ahead by a little bit. High school roof came along. The budget was $369,200. I did the bid docs, the roof evaluation, the replacement, the final site inspection came to $329,530. I estimated $369, came in under. Doing well so far. Then we got to the heating system. We did the boilers, and then we added some concrete to put the boilers on. We did some upgrades, design, construction. The heating system, phase 1 controls, I was good. I had 203,448. And then we went on and we did phase 2, which hadn't anticipated at that point in time, but that was the univent system throughout the building. And those prices on the univent system went up. So all of a sudden my total was $267, and I was $64,540, 13, not to the good, overexpended. Lighting. Lighting, I had budgeted $42,000. At this point in time, on the elementary, I've spent $10,439.38. Unfinished, got at $31,000 left. The WES windows and doors, I had that all of a sudden ended up with a fire marshal that showed up and wanted me to get a report and a review, and I had to have Stephen Black do that part for me and get to the fire marshal. Came out of the blue from someone who thought that ought to be done. The doors and WES bill, the glass replacement, the windows, and then the windows and another door that were done. I budgeted $137,778.45, came in at $155,322. I was off $17,444.11. And of course, part of that was some things I didn't see in that process. The WES roof was the biggest one. We expected that to be $243,795. Unfortunately, we didn't know at the time when we estimated the roof that we were going to have to do a whole lot of interior structure work, and that all came as a surprise, and was an addition to it. So we had the engineering, the first payments of the roof project, some project cost, miscellaneous, the construction, the replacement, the July payment, the independent roof services, we did the review of all of the construction, some more roof replacement, and the final payment on the roof. It was held over. Total price came to $399.20, and was $93,799 overbid, most of which was the construction inside the system. And then the cafeteria kitchen, basically, this goes through the end of last month, and so at that point I've still made some more payments. I didn't carry it any further. We had spent basically $139,680.36. I didn't carry it out any further, you know, it's right. And in that process, you'll find a bond payment that was made for $59,321.86, which probably should be moved over to local because I can't really use bond money to pay off bond money. So that's why there's that question mark there. I haven't moved it yet. So including the $59,000, total expenditure at that point was $1,670,889.99. The bond was $5 million in total, $164,862. With a remainder of $3,493,972.01, plus or minus of $59,000. So that's where we stand financially. In order to get the project up and running, in addition to where we were before, on a quick start, we signed a contract on the AIA with the contractor this year, 8% okay, and this breaks out the cost for where we have signed on to do, I need one, I've got one. At this point, and under this particular fast start, quick start, immediate start, it's for $248,742, which is not in that yet in total, but it's broken out. You'll see the scheduled value of everything going down through. These are basically outside costs, or not to exceed costs would be the best way to put it. There's a variable to it as it goes through. We don't know from time to time what changes might have to be made because of ground or because of other impacting factors. We don't know everything that we'd like to know. When we dug the ground, if we'd hit ledge, all of these numbers would have been impacted significantly had we had to drill blast or do something else, and I've had that happen before on a Sebastopol Middle School, where I had to blast for weeks. And all of that was undisclosed when we did test borings. So, the addition to this one was also the food service equipment. The first bids on the food service equipment came in excess of $250,000 by paying for and including that in the contract prior to the end of the fiscal year, December 31, before the changes in prices. It was able to reduce it to $239,000, which is a $11,000 savings. As I shared with the administrative team, anything I can do to promote a savings, anything that the builder has done or the architect has done to promote savings, all will come back. Most of the prices we're going to be talking about really are not to exceed prices. We hope we can bring everything in under. We don't know, as you go through construction, when you open a wall or do something even in an old house, you don't know what you're going to find. You don't know what your end result is. You estimate it to the best of your ability. I'm not a builder, I'm not a contractor. I did, and I consulted with others to get prices, and that's where we're at. And we have a list. The priority of the list was to get these roofs done because we have to have a roof over our head. The second priority was take care of heating at the elementary school because it just wasn't working. Third priority was to build this kitchen, cafeteria, and the fourth priority was the heating system here. With the dollars we have available right now, all of those projects should be able to be completed up to that point. Beyond that point, anything in savings will go forward with additional projects. Later on, I'll talk about those revolving renovation funds that are available if we want to go in that direction. That'll support some of the other things we wanted to do. But that's really a decision that has to be made in the next probably month in order to go forward. As far as construction, I think I gave this to you, but I'll give you another copy anyway to tell you where we're at, and I'm sure they'll all share this with you as we go forward here anyway. On the front and back of this, it's the time schedule, and so where we're doing and how we're doing on phase one, and basically aligns with what Leroy is trying to get done out there on the property at this point in time, and how we're moving forward with that. And it's a basic timeline. We'll be able to stay exactly on time. It all depends on whether materials are here when we expect them to be here, whether everybody's in place where we expect them to be at the time we expect them to be there, and that we can move forward without complications. So that's the ballpark how we got to where we're at. And I've got my architects and my contractor here with me. And because we had some questions, I'd like to have them share the information they've got, and they've brought some additional information as we've been talking last week, so to share with you as well. So, Steve, want to go?
Hi, my name is Steve Hoffman, and this is Steve Rusky. We're the principal project architects for this project, and we work for Steve and Blatt Architects.
So three Steves.
So we're the three Steves. Yes, it's kind of an inside joke in the office that you have to be named Steve to work for Steve and Blatt Architects. What I've got to share with you today, and I hope I have enough copies to go around, but if not, there's two things. One is a little piece of media that came out in 2018 about what's happening all over the state and the region right now. We're in, I think it's fair to say, and Carl can speak to this a little bit more, an unprecedented time in terms of construction. And we had a series of factors that are conspiring to drive construction costs much higher than anyone might have expected 2 years ago or even a year ago. There is so much construction, and there is a shortage of qualified contractors, construction managers, and even down to laborers that we are finding across the board in the last 18 months. All projects are seeing extravagant cost increases as they go out to bid, and also sometimes schedule delays. It is simply hard to find people to bid and commit to do the work, much less meet your budget. So the first piece that was featured on Maine Public is just one example of articles that you can find in local newspapers, state newspapers, and in other media talking about the kinds of cost increases. And particularly the first paragraph sums it up there. 30%. 30% between the time a project is conceived and budgeted to the time that it goes out to bid. And that's just in a 1-year time frame. The second piece of information that I gave to you all is kind of an outline. I wanted to attempt to go back to when the initial budget for this project was put together, and you guys voted on the bond. That was before my time here, but I think I've done an accurate job in following the numbers and the time frame. And the key thing is to look at, so we're starting in December of 2018, and the total budget was 3.630, at least that's what we designated among these 4 areas of work. Primarily the kitchen, cafeteria, and the heating upgrades, you can see, were the largest portions of that. And then we had electrical lighting upgrade and some exterior work. Now, the thing that we got wrong in that budget, and well, we can't deny it, we had estimated $240 a square foot for the new construction on the cafeteria. And simply at the time, we had just not caught up to the anecdotal evidence that was starting to come in, showing the extreme spike in construction costs that came in through the end of 2018 and is carried over into 2019 today, this 30% increase. So really that $240 a square foot should have been, if we had been able to see right then, put our pulse on the cost of things, around $312 a square foot, which you'll see down below in the line that says 2018 cost escalations. So that and when we moved through the concept design, we realized that we didn't need 3,600 square feet. We really needed 4,000 square feet to accommodate the 126 seats that we felt was the appropriate benchmark for the cafeteria itself and the kitchen facility. Those together, the 30% increase and the additional square footage at $312 a square foot, means that the accurate number at in December of 2018 should have been around $2 million rather than $1.5 million. That's looking backwards. If we had known then what we know now about how costs increase.
If I knew then what I know now,
Right.
I'd be rich.
It's very easy to look back and judge, but that's kind of to sort of bring it up to date in the real numbers, if you will. And then in 2019, we have kept a closer look. We've had several projects at this scale and larger go out to bid, and what we're seeing is an additional around 15% cost increases just in 2019, over and above the 2018 cost increases. And we're getting this from not only the projects that we're bidding, but talking to other colleagues in the industry and using our professional cost estimators as a reference point, whose business it is to keep their.
And also just to add, the last 3 projects that our office has done usually takes maybe almost a year from concept the bid documents. All three of the biggest school projects we did had to go back out during design development for value engineering to bring the costs down. So even within that span of that 1 year of what we thought we had for how much we could build, it decreases as we're drawing over that time.
Right. It's a very extreme environment right now. Challenging to get these things built. So the number that I would bring you to is the total below the 2019 cost escalations. That's at the time that we were approaching beginning our DD estimate with Nick O'Day. This was in kind of the late spring, summer, moving into September when they completed their DD estimate. You know, we were looking at expecting the cost could go as high as $2.4 million on the increased size of the cafeteria, and we also increased the cost for the heating upgrades, and knew that that was going to tap out and in fact exceed potentially the budget that we had laid out for $3.6 million back in 2018. So we weren't even at that time really considering seriously the additional work, the electrical lighting and the exterior. The DD estimate that we got from Nick O'Day in September actually tracked very closely to those expectations. And we all knew that that was high and we needed to try and bring that down. So we worked on that through the development of the design. And in December, we got an initial GMP total estimate from Nick O'Day. That's the guaranteed maximum price for both those projects. And there was some good news and some bad news. Through the efforts of our engineers and sort of the careful thought about the execution of the mechanical work, the cost of that actually dropped considerably in the final bid tally. But then the cost that, you know, for the cafeteria actually rose beyond even what we had estimated it to come into. And under Bill's direction and working closely with Carl and his team, we sat down to do some value engineering over the past month. And so where it stands today is a total cost for the kitchen cafeteria of around 2.88. I think there's still a few things in flux. And $700,000 and change for the heating upgrades for the school. And that puts us right in striking distance of that original 3.6 budget. So I think, shocking as it may be, this is just the context of what we're living in right now in terms of getting a good building built. I want to underscore on behalf of the firm that we are really, rather than trying to downgrade the quality of what we're building for you, we're trying to hold steady on that. And our aspiration was to build you a 20-year cafeteria that as the community grows, you know, prospers in the future, and hopefully enrollment grows, that cafeteria would not become obsolete. And that also meant providing a kitchen facility, you know, par excellence, with the configuration and a quality of equipment that, again, could serve a capacity of a growing school. And as I understand it, not just this school, but it provides, I believe, lunches for at least one elementary school. Is that right, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a very professional production kitchen, which will serve this school district very well in the future. And the quality of the equipment is such that, again, it's 20-year equipment. So you guys are setting a new benchmark for the future of your school district in building this facility. And we felt like that was appropriate, that the other maintenance items like the electrical lighting improvements and the exterior, while they should be done in the short run as funding may become available. The most important thing was that if you're going to commit to build a cafeteria at all and commit to upgrade the heating and cooling system, those should be done at a level that you're done and done. No sacrifices in quality, and that those two things would be there to serve the district for the next 20 years. And other than that, we are here to answer what questions that we may, and we are here to listen. thank you for your time and your consideration.
Carl, you wanna talk about our process? Oh,
Yeah,
Greg?
Steve, I'll just throw this out there.
Yeah.
I've been involved on the fringes for quite a while. The big question, the elephant in the room is quite simple. We were told it was gonna be $1.6 million to build a cafeteria. We went to the town. I'm gonna take my school hat off now. So we went to the town and said, we're gonna build a nice cafeteria for $1.6 million, and a year and a half later, we're told it's basically double that. Needless to say, shock is the first word that comes to mind, so that's the elephant in the room, as you know. Happy with the price of the heating system, but that is the overriding question. We are 1.28, give or take, million over what we planned on spending. So for me, and I've told the school board this, I've said it in front of the town council, all the other projects, in my opinion, they need to be put on hold. Don't spend a dollar until we get the cafeteria fixed, the heating system fixed, and I think that's where we're at. But that is the questions that we needed answered. How can it be that we're almost double what we were supposed to spend on a cafeteria?
And it is so understandable. Believe me, the shock, we share it. You know, I think even Carl would say that it is, when we say it's unprecedented, and it's hard to say what is the cause. I mean, people are busy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of investment in areas. So you can only imagine that not only are you paying the penalty for a very, vibrant economy where there's a lot of demand for construction services that always drives up prices, there's also a shortage on top of that, honestly, a huge shortage in the region of qualified builders. And then on top of that, there's the remoteness of the location. So you're also trying to entice the few qualified builders that there are that are already building in other locations at premium price to come here when their roster is already full. So it's unfortunately the timing of it, and who can say what is causing prices to fluctuate like this. But I can tell you that across the board, this is what's happening. You're not the only school district, certainly, dealing with this problem. You are maybe dealing with it a little more intensely than some of the other school districts that have maybe a larger ready pool of contractors, or that are doing larger projects, like $4 million. That's a lot for this school district to invest in something like a cafeteria. Sounds like a lot for a cafeteria, but there are $40 million schools being built in the state. You know, given your choice between $20 million, $40 million project and a $4 million project where you have to travel 2.5 hours to get to it, you can see how the limited bidders, it's limited. Anyway, I don't have an answer, but I really feel you. I really do.
I'd like to add to what Craig said. You know, we don't doubt that you're giving us a quality product. Our concern is that, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that back in the springtime, last spring, it was looking like the numbers were gonna come in way above projected. At that time, it would have been nice to know so that we could, formulate a plan on how we're going to deal with that, because like Craig said, we've got a higher than average elderly population in this community, and they're all on fixed incomes for the most part, and so we've got a lot of explaining to do as a town council. Also, the bonds for the new construction and the renovations are two separate bonds.
They were
So-
bonded out separately for
Right.
payment purposes, not for construction purposes.
Right, but
One
just so everybody has an
5.164
understanding of
million.
where the money is being drawn from.
In reality, it's a $5,164 bond, but drawn by the attorneys in two separate pools because of timing of payments in order to get it, and how the bond bank wanted to level that out. So we simply leveled it out based upon our early estimates of where our costs were. Has nothing to do with actual project cost. It doesn't say in the bond that it's going to build a specific. It says it's going to do upgrades and reconstruction to the building. It doesn't say which building, it doesn't say where, it doesn't say kitchen, cafeteria. When you look at the bond, it's for upgrades, construction.
the bonds that we approved were based on, expectations.
Right,
that
yeah,
were
and,
presented to
and I
us.
get that, and.
And the town, the
Right.
voters.
And
voted
we had a
on
list, as I
certain
just
things.
gave you, of items we had priced out 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, because it was at that point in time when I had permission to go forward. I'm gonna guess it's probably closer to 2.25 years ago now, when we started the process of looking at, and it was after the addition failed, what would it take to bring this building and the other building back up to a lifespan that would last longer. We knew at that point in time that we had roofing issues. That if we're going to have, and they came right out of the board, that if we're going to have buildings, we need to make sure that the roof doesn't leak and we don't end up with further problems. We gotta have it. We really want to get out of the gym and actually have a cafeteria that can provide a little bit better quality product than we personally can out of what were locker rooms that are now a kitchen. And we really know that we want to upgrade the heating system here, and we really had specific needs. We lost a boiler at the elementary school to upgrade that heating system. And once you got into the heating system in elementary, it sort of carried its own from control systems to univents. The univents were not a part of the original first update, and then the price of the univents went up, and you see the impact of that. So we've gone through and we've done exactly what we've done. We're taking it in a priority list. The board's been very specific with me that the cafeteria kitchen is on the top of the list. The heating system here at the high school is next on that list. The roofs were a top priority, and the heating system at the elementary school. So we've gotten through those things, and we're working down through. As we go through the project, and I'm gonna let Carl talk for a minute, you know, our hope, and I talked to Carl the other night, and I've spent many hours on the phone with him, our hope is that what we're looking at is an outside price, that during the process, we don't run into issues that cause ups, but rather an opportunity to go down a little bit. And we've spent a great deal of time with the architects, the engineers, and with Carl and his group, value engineering everything. Carl's gonna talk a little bit about that, I think, because he's brought all his books with him. And give you an idea what the process looks like that we've gone through. And it's not 1 hour or 2 hour meetings. These are extensive time periods and extensive work by individuals to make sure that we're trying to get the best quality at the least lowest, best opportune price that we can get. And that's been a process. And then as I said to the administrative team today, is we look at it, you know, yes, talking with Leroy today, because we've been able to find a few workers up here to do some work, we've been able to reduce the transportation cost. But it's a few $1,000s when we're looking at 2.8 million. It's like throwing a pebble in a pond. It makes a little wave. I'd love to say $1 million, but that would be throwing a whole big mountain into the middle of that pond. I don't have the mountain, but I'm throwing pebbles, and Carl's throwing pebbles. We're gonna keep throwing pebbles until we try to bring it down to a reasonable price. Is it gonna come down millions? No, it's not gonna come down millions. Will it come down some? Yeah, we're working on that. We started at 3, we're down to 2.8, and we're continuing to work through it.
I'd just like to add to that as well, you know, again, we don't doubt that you're providing us with a quality product. We don't doubt that you have your priorities aligned as far as which projects need to be done first. I think everyone here would have appreciated a little more, you know, timely, you know, just knowing that the projects were going to come in much over budget, so that we could get together and discuss anything, any questions that people have. Here we are, a good 6, maybe even 9 months down the road from when those projections came in much over budget. So communication, you know, would alleviate a lot of the concern here and give us a
Well,
little wiggle room for planning.
Not to carry this out, but the board's been aware, we've had the discussion. They're the ones that said that roofs are priority, cafeteria was priority, heating systems were priority. And that's a process I've been directed to follow. yes, the town voted through a bond for those, or bonds for those projects. And yes, in order to have that vote, it had to be signed off by the town selectmen. That happens in any district. The board can't approve them, it has to go through the town to be put on a ballot for a vote. Boards do not put ballots out, towns do. That's why it goes through that process. Town doesn't own the bond, the bond is owned through the school department. Yes, the town taxpayers will pay for it through the school budget. But the bond itself is a school building bond, not a town building bond. Understand the difference. The process is, we go through the bond bank, we go with the paperwork from the attorneys for a vote on the bond. That has to go through the town council for approval to put it on a ballot for an election. That's the town council's priority. Then it goes to a vote. If it passes, it comes back to be approved as a vote, and then gone out to bond council to be bonded through a bank or through the bond bank itself. The bond is owned by the school, it's owed by the school department. The town council, from its standpoint, other than approving the ballot process, doesn't have any role in it. That's the legal standpoint.
Legal standpoint aside, you're exactly right, Acacia. This information should have been spread to the town council, so the town council could meet with the school board, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that face the voters as far as, this is what we needed for money, and we're not gonna be able to do what we said. Let's be very clear about that. The school board is not gonna be going out and saying to the town, we can't do our projects. We will be. Very clear about this.
But
I
when I
think-
look at,
And so,
am I wrong in that, looking at these figures, and I'm not a builder, I don't even I'm an educator, so, but when I look at these numbers that you've brought to us, and when we look at the bond, there is money there to complete this project as well as the heating. Is that, I mean, that's what I'm looking at, it's,
Yeah, the bottom line is the cafeteria and the heating upgrades do fall within the initial 3.6 million.
right,
And the remainder, the electrical lighting and the exterior, Carl did actually bid those out at the DD phase, and at that point, we left it on the table because we decided to focus on the high priorities. But I believe the net of those two, even at DD, was either in line with the initial estimate or slightly below. Again, because you're beginning the process with, you think you're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and as you get into it, things like the lighting and the mechanical systems, you know, that's a very kind of 1 + 1 = 2 kind of equation with engineering. With careful effort, you can winnow that down to the bare bones that you need to do. When you get into something like, you know, new construction, particularly the cafeteria, you know, you can't really peel 200 square feet out of the kitchen. You can't really take 400 square feet out of the seating to reduce its costs. And because it is new construction, because it's a complete building, there's just that threshold of like, you know, just to build it at all, you know, you'd be talking about not too much different than what
so we're
you're gonna
still
spend.
within the bond, the money that we've gone to the city and gone to the town and asked for, so we're still gonna be within that, we just may not be able to do the third thing. So I guess, you know, we are over budget. If anyone has ever done any construction, I mean, we built a garage that was over, any construction, you're not gonna stay within that. I mean, especially when you go out for prices a year ago, 2 years ago, I mean, and so it's just what happens with construction. And I mean, we're staying within the bond, so I mean, I think, you know,
I mean, we're at where we're at.
And see, I agree, Sharon, and
right
we-
now, right, so all we can do is try to set our priorities, okay, and that's what we're doing. If we get the cafeteria done, we get the heating done, we have some money left over, maybe we can do something else. That's all we can do. We're not gonna go over our bond, so it's not gonna cost the taxpayers any more money, okay? And maybe we aren't gonna get as much as we plan on getting done. It is, I agree, it's frustrating that we're, you know, roughly that cafeteria is about 75% higher than it was originally budgeted. But that's our priority, okay? And we're here where we're here, and where we're at, and we just need to move on. We can't dwell on it, and there's not. And I agree that perhaps the information should have got out quicker, but right now we have to set our priorities. We can't dwell on it too long, and we just need to move on. And we just need to say, look, this is what we got for money. We're not going over it. We'll do as much as we can. I mean,
I agree, because this is where we are. The information should have been shared, but this is where we are, and I believe, you're right, we should have enough money, in my opinion, to do the cafeteria, do our heating system, and then let's see where we are. I gotta get going, but before, I just wanna say, on a daily basis, I work with Lee right here from Nixon O'Day. He is in charge of the project here. Pleasure to work with. He's doing his part out there every day, trying to find ways to save us $1 here or $1,000 there. So that's a big help on a day-to-day basis. So anyway, gentlemen, thank you for coming. I've got to go. Carl.
See you later.
Dr. McHugh, do you want to say something?
Keep it on the alley.
Just a little curious, an unpredictable cost that I've been reading about at great length in other manufacturing is the cost of some of the products that are coming into the country and have suffered a 25% increase in cost. Has that affected this at all? The tariffs?
We've seen a slight upgrade in structural steel-related items, but part of the process that we've gone through was to take a look at whether it would be smarter to build a building in wood or with structural steel. And our study proved that it would be less expensive to do it in wood. So the structural steel component is actually quite small. It's only about $30,000 or $40,000 worth of structural steel. So it's probably had a minimal impact, but less than $10,000, probably less than $7,000 impact overall.
Thank you.
So Carl, you wanna talk a little bit about your process?
Well, the story's already been told.
Yeah.
I took the time to write out a chronology, and I don't want to bore people by repeating things, but first of all, just introductions. My name is Carl Ward. I'm the president and CEO of Nickerson & O'Day. I have been with the company nearly 30 years, which is about 1 year less than you've been with the company. Lee is our superintendent. I was not the cost estimator who did this work. That is Greg Hildebrand, but Greg Hildebrand is still sitting in a courtroom in Waldo County Courthouse in Belfast. It's jury duty time for him. And so that's that case where the guy killed all the pigs on his farm. You probably read about it in the newspaper, so he's going to be involved in this one for a while. But prior to that, prior to my becoming president of the company, I was the chief cost development estimator for Nickerson O'Day for about 11 years. And prior to that, in an earlier life on the West Coast, I was chief cost development estimator for a large construction company in San Francisco. So I know about cost estimating. I also want to let you know that I understand and can really feel for where you're at, because not only am I an engineer, but I'm also an educator. I taught at the University of Maine for about 11, almost 12 years until I got the opportunity to be the president of the company. But I have also served on the board of trustees at John Baptist High School for 8 years. I chaired and was a member of the building and grounds and finance committees. We don't have public dollars coming to us there. It's all private. So we really have to stretch a buck at John Baptist. I'm also a parent of 3 kids who are now all 3 in college right now. And I remember going to Dedham School meetings and listening to how they stretch their dollars. Additionally, I served on the board of Eastern Community College for 14 years, and I was chair there for 3. And budget is always a big issue there as well. So I feel for you. I understand where this is coming from. I did want to just give a little bit of a chronology without being too redundant of what's happened. And if you'll indulge me for just a little bit. And by the way, thank you for inviting me. I haven't been invited to one of these, so it's kind of nice to put a face to everybody's names and see what's going on. We were selected as after an interview back in February of last year, almost a year ago, and in April we executed a contract. And something you should know about our contract, it's one that calls for the establishment of a guaranteed maximum price. So the price can't go any higher, but it can always go lower. And that's what Bill's alluding to. So sometimes you're used to, you put a bid out, you get a lump sum number from a contractor, and that's what they do the job for. But here it's different. The invoices we give Bill account for every single penny that gets spent on the project. And he has the right to question, and in fact, he already has questioned a couple of things on there. So he's watching the pebbles. Just trust me, he is. He's doing a good job. The other thing I wanted to point out too is we've worked with a lot of architects. The gentleman to my right, Lee's worked with a lot of architects. He's very critical, as am I, over the processes and the people we work with. But he's had nothing but the highest praise for particularly Steve Hoffman and Steve Ruskide and the work that they've done. And I will tell you, they're a good set of prints, and we've had to adjust a lot of things on the fly. They're extraordinarily responsive. We just finished a $52 million school for a different school district that Bill's familiar with, and I would have died for half of the responsiveness that we're getting from the Stephen Blatt team, because it really caused some significant problems there. So I think you've got a good team on the design side, and also with the administrative side. That's just my opinion after having been involved with projects like this. So believe me, they're not paying me to make those comments. The design happened from about April to late August of last year, and we began what's known as a design development cost estimate. That's these two books right here. These books are completely open to all of you. If everybody here wants a copy, I'll go make a copy and you can all have it. And what this was designed to do was to catch the design at about 50% complete, give or take, and then just see where we were with pricing. And at the time, the base bid for the cafeteria was coming in a little under $2.5 million, and we were told that the number one alternate priority was the heating system, and that came in at about $1.45 million. We were at about $3.9 million at 50% design, so it gave us a first blush. We also looked at replacing the boiler that was about $31,000. The lighting actually came in quite a bit under. It was $135,000. Remodeling the bathrooms that we have up in that end of the school was about $212,000. Doing some drainage work outside the building was $25,000, and the windows and the siding replacement, which was the big enchilada, was about just a little under $700,000. All of that was included in all of this. This is all done by hand, by the way. We don't computer estimate. We hand take off every single thing. It's the way we've done it since 1952. We're not going to change, because you have to, I like to say, you have to think about what comes out the end of your pencil. And we want it to be accurate. We presented to Bill. We didn't initiate any value engineering at that point. I basically said, let's continue with the design post haste. But it was clear that the cafetorium, we're calling it, and the mechanical portion were the priorities. In October and November, Steve's team completed the GMP design, and during that time, we performed the wood versus steel estimate, which was not budgeted. We had budgeted about $5,000 for all of our estimating on this project, and we've spent just a little under $16,000 so far. So we've done a lot of estimating. And by the way, that $5,000, according to my contract, says if we get to where we build the whole building, that we give back to you. That was part of my proposal. So all of this $16,000 worth of estimating is actually going to be done for free, and that does not get charged to the school. And that was the deal. I'll stick to it. So we finished that GMP, and Bill was getting antsy. He's an antsy guy. You notice he fidgets a lot. And he said, how come we can't get going? Why can't we get going? And we said, well, we're going to be estimating the guaranteed maximum price, but one thing we could suggest that would be a smart thing to do is to do what's called a fast track. Let us pick out a portion of the work and maybe shell in the building, no slab. There was a big electrical service entrance out there that had to be moved. That was expensive. So we broke out an estimate for $975,000, and we signed an amendment to get us buying things. We bought all the rebar, concrete forms, concrete, all the wood, all the roofing, the electrical work to move over, the telecommunication line. Work was immediately done. And not long after that, we got word from our sub-bidder for the kitchen equipment. And they said, if you wait until after New Year's to do this, it's going to cost you $11,000 more. So we presented that to Bill, and he came back and said, then this is a no-brainer. Let's save the school district and the town another pebble, $11,000. That's been added to our contracts. We're at about $1.2 million or about $1.2 million right now out of the total, whatever the final total will be. That's where we're at.
AI plus.
The AI, okay. So So we did the fast track and we executed that amendment. The GMP, we presented a bill just before Christmas, and for the base bid and the alternate, it came in at 3.789 million, which was $155,000 lower than it had been in September. And the thing you should understand is that it never goes lower. We almost never ever see a design development estimate and then it goes down to GMP. It always goes up. So we were very excited about that. The biggest change was that the mechanical costs went down considerably. We did bid out the other alternates, but it doesn't look at this point like we're going to move forward with those. We did indicate that we would probably move ahead. Bill had to go back and check with folks. Said I'll be in touch with you within a couple of days. The word came back is we need to do some value engineering. So this is our design development level estimate. This is our guaranteed maximum price estimate. This one took 7 weeks to produce. This one took about 2.5 weeks to produce. And this is, we couldn't jump on the value engineering immediately because people had vacations scheduled over the Christmas holiday, and I wasn't going to tell them to not work. So they came in right after New Year's, and the VE, the value engineering cost savings ideas, were presented. All of us met and discussed it, and we presented on the 17th or the 21st of January. We reviewed those. Bill accepted about 190,000 of those ideas. So as it stands right now, even though we started at 3.95 million back in September, we're at 3.6 million now for the base bid and the alternate. That came through an awful lot of work, a lot of man hours, a lot of talking with Steve's team. He's come back with great ideas. Bill's come back with great ideas, and he's put us in touch with people that will rent us their homes locally and local material suppliers that we didn't know of because he has local knowledge. None of these were going to save $1 million, but they were going to save a little bit. So we, let's see, at this point, where we also did one other thing. We had a price from another mechanical contractor, but we always try to keep the money local if we can. So we approached Sheridan, and we also approached Tim Gatcomb, who runs a small plumbing and heating company. They had said that this project was too big for them to do by themselves, but maybe if we split it, that we could do it. So we thought we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, keep the money local, and maybe save some money. That worked out, and then we approached the other contractor who was a lower price on the mechanical upgrades to see if he would only do that portion. We expected him to say no, and he said yes. The total savings of those 2 moves alone to where we are right now is over $600,000 is what we saved. So that's a big splash. That one was a big one.
That was a big rock.
That helped a lot. That got us to where we're at. So since the 21st, we've been sort of in a holding pattern. There are some positives out of this process. The DD estimate at least gave the team closely involved with it a good look at where we were at back in September. I want to let you know that part of this process is that we also carry a contingency in there. We're carrying about $150,000 worth of contingencies. That's in case we hit the ledge or there's a math mistake. What I'm really worried about in this project is losing a subcontractor. Because there were 6 or 7 major trades where we were only able to get 1 subcontractor to actually bid the work. This is our solicitation list, and I counted it earlier today. These are all the subcontractors who were invited for this proposal. There were over 560 subcontractors invited, and we got 34 proposals. And part of that is what Steve talked about. Actually, he mentioned both aspects of it. The market is white hot right now, and most of the folks that we deal with are Bangor, Augusta, Waterville, Lewiston, Auburn, and Portland. We don't go out of state. We try to keep all of our projects in Maine. They've got work right in their backyard in abundance. Most of it's negotiated right now. In fact, all of our projects right now at Nickerson-on-Day, except for one, right now, is a negotiated project just like this. So the open bid market, they're putting out bids and they're getting 1 or 2 bidders because everybody's loading up on negotiated work, and they're doing better with that. The same thing applies to our subcontractors. We're having a hell of a time getting them to show an interest in this. But we've beaten the bushes pretty hard as best we know how, and we've got coverage in every sub-trade that we needed. We did the wood versus steel estimate. I think that was a positive. We offered the fast track, and I think Bill was smart to jump on that. All told, we've estimated 7 alternates. We may only accept 1, but we've provided lots of extra, these books wouldn't be nearly as thick if we hadn't done that, but we wanted to find out what we could afford and maybe what we could afford down the road. The kitchen equipment saved the 11,000, and the value engineering that we did, it's in this binder, saved about 188,000. And we split the mechanical scope between the base and the alternate. We helped, had input in developing what I'm going to call a joint venture, although it's not a formal joint venture, but they're working together, keeping the money local. And then, in addition to this, on this time and materials approach, if we underrun the cost, it could wind up like the project we just finished with Downey's Community Hospital, $3.6 million project. We got to the end of the project and we had underrun the project to the point where we could return $60,000 worth of savings to them, which we did. Steve Lale, the CEO at the hospital, was very happy with us. He's awarded us a pharmacy project, and we're about to get a walk-in clinic project with them, hopefully sometime in the next month or two. It's Lee's son, Lee Jr., that's actually building those, following in his father's footsteps. It works. Our hope here is that between the good start that we've gotten on this so far, 3 weeks into our concrete, our labor costs are tracking under. We also realize Lee has found a way to get the concrete into the hole, basically, without having to use concrete pumps. And we carried over $10,000 worth of concrete pumps. We think we're not going to have to use any, maybe for the slabs, but we'll see. We think we're looking at every little way where we can underrun, and that's our hope, is that when we get to the end, we're hoping that a lot of that contingency that we're carrying is left over, and that we can come back to this very room about a year from now, or a little less hopefully, and say, we've got great news, here's our final invoice, here's our final cost. And we have a habit of beating our numbers, but no matter what, it can't go over that. So if we make a math mistake, happened recently, hate to say it, but we carried $8,000 for structural steel on a job, and he slipped the decimal, it should have carried 80. We ate that. If we lose a subcontractor, and let's say this subcontractor can't complete the work, and we have to go out and find somebody else at $20,000 higher, there's no changeover coming to you. We have to eat that. But the other thing we'll do with Bill is when we get closer to the end of the project, if we're looking like we're going to underrun, we're going to inform him. Because some of this value engineering that we took out, he may want to add it back in, or there may be something else. So we're very good at monitoring the cost. We have an outstanding system internally to manage that. At most, it's about 3 to 4 weeks behind reality, and that's about as close as a contractor can get. And we're going to do that. As far as the negatives, we talk about positives. We always talk about negatives. I wish we'd gotten better solicitation results. We tried. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that I'm starting to get a little bit worried, because a lot of the GMP figures that we used in this estimate now were prices that we received around Thanksgiving or the first week of December. And everybody is busy. And one of the things I'm already going to have to do is, if you make a decision to move ahead and you say, Carl, this is going to be your scope, move ahead, I'm going to say, I'm going to take a short little time out, give us a couple of days, just to make sure that everybody can still hold their price, but they're still available. Because I've been caught on the wrong end of that, and where we should have checked with them, and they weren't. They picked up too much work, and everybody's bidding and picking up a lot of work for this summer. It's going to be incredibly, just like last year and even the year before. It's the busiest I've ever seen it, and I've been in this business since '86. So it's the busiest I've ever seen it. My recommendation, I think we've really done a great job of exhaustively looking at all of the design options, the pricing alternates. I think you know how much you can spend. I don't know exactly what Bill has already spent. I didn't look at the other reports. None of my business to see what you've already spent as part of this project. But if the numbers work, my sincere recommendation is that we award the remainder of the base price. We accept the value engineering that Bill has already looked at, and if you're so inclined, you add the mechanical portion, which, by the way, is going to be completed probably in 2 phases. Part of it will be completed in the summer of 2020, and then we'll come back the next summer and complete the remainder of it during that summer. I don't think we can get it all done in one summer. So, and then see where we come in. Let the dust settle, as Craig said before he left, and see where it comes in, and we're here. He's not free, so you might as well take advantage of him. Tacking on some of these other smaller projects, he can handle it. But coming back 2 years from now, now you're paying for a superintendent all over again, you're paying for mobilization all over again, and it'd just be a waste of the school's money. So that's my spiel. That's the chronology and how we got where we're at. I feel very good about the amount of detail we put into it, and I feel very good about our design partner, and I just would like to strike while the iron's hot and lock this in and get moving forward.
So, a couple questions. So we're at, I think you said the budget between the base bid and the alternate for the heating is about 3.6 million. Did you say about that 3.6 million roughly?
$3,600,960.
And we have this.
3-4,
So almost 3.5.
yeah,
So we're still,
plus or minus
we're
this payment that was made,
this the bond payment?
no, yeah, the bond payment.
Okay, so we still have a couple $100,000 that we need to get down?
We're down,
Because-
at that rate, we're looking at, basically 3,540.
Okay, so we add this to
Yeah,
this? So
correct.
we're actually 3.5, say
Yeah.
roughly 3.5, and we're 3.55.
Yep.
3.55, and we're at, so we gotta come about $50,000 over
One
that.
suggestion, award the base bid, award the first phase of the mechanical, because we can't complete it all in the summer. Let us break that out.
Okay, so the first phase mechanical could be broken out, right now,
Right.
phase 1 and phase 2 is one price.
That's right. And break it out.
Mhm.
The risk you run, Sheridan, is if we come back next year and we've demobilized,
That
now
could
that
be
gives
more
them,
money.
that gives them a chance
Sure.
to ask for a little bit more
Sure.
money. But the time that it buys you is to see how we come in.
Yep.
I'm pretty confident we're gonna beat this budget. If we can get, I need to get my subcontracts out, Sheridan.
Yep.
You know what it's like, if you don't lock in those numbers, you've seen copper numbers go up, conduit, light fixtures, and it's about timing, and if you don't jump on it really quick, the next thing you know, you call them up 6 months later.
Everything's going up, and it just keeps going up.
It is, and, yeah, there's certain segments right now, we're starting to see dimension lumber and plywood, sheeting lumber both start to go up again, which is typical. Petroleum, products right now are holding steady, but that could change just like that, anything that's petroleum based. And metals are going up, and, you know, there's a lot of talk about them coming back down in the spring, because apparently the trade deal's been struck, at least the first phase of the trade deal, which takes in structural steel and conduit and those things with China. So, but, you know, we know we have good numbers here, and if we wait, I just worry that it's gonna hurt us. In terms of making up the 50,000, if we keep all of our subcontractors, and the project, we don't have a tough winter, we're allowing about 50 or 60,000, I think, for, winter conditions. You see the tents, we're burning up a lot of propane right now. Just pray for a mild winter to continue. It's been mild so far, it's been a very good winter.
It's been really good.
Been very good. If that happens, and if our subs hold and we beat our labor, we just picked up $10,000, I think, on concrete pumping at least, then I think we can shoehorn our way in there without you necessarily having to go back to the taxpayers or find another source within your budget or the town's budget for another 50,000. So I'd give us a little bit of time on that. Let's see if we can do it.
The other thing is, you've been going after some extra money on some of these other
Yes.
areas, right?
We'll talk about that later, yeah.
Right, okay.
So,
All right, well, thank you very much. Do we have anybody else?
Lee, you wanna
Anybody?
tell us where we're at?
yeah.
What you doing out there? What's happening out there?
Well, I can show, it's kind of pointing on here. If you go and really wants to come and take a peek at this print, has anybody even seen the prints?
Actually, I'll be your Vanna White. How's that? As long as you don't tell anybody I did this. I'll just come over here so everybody can see it.
Basically, what we do is, if you look at the print, you'll see there's A lines. It's all broken up in segments. So you go
Where's the
A,
existing
B.
school?
Yeah,
Existing school's over here.
yeah,
So
you're
this is
back
the-
this way and you're right here too. This is kind of where,
Okay.
basically from E to A, and then from A down to 3 line is the foundation's in. It's already been poured. It's in place. This last week we were putting in from 3 line, which would be A, B, C, and D, all the way down and around. We get the footers all in place. So I want to say next Tuesday we should be having the next concrete pour as far as pouring the walls, and then all we'll have is just the front to close in. So
So you're basically doing the perimeter footings, right?
Yes.
And then, but you're gonna wait and actually pour the inside
Yes.
later on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we
Get
haven't,
it,
we're not
get it,
doing
try to
no
get it, you
floors.
still plan is to try to close it in?
Yeah, get the building,
And
then
s-
we'll
and
do
pour the
the
concrete
slab afterwards.
later.
Yeah.
We think the foundations will take the better part of the rest of the month to get it backfilled. We're not pouring a slab, it's not in our phase one fast track.
Right.
We didn't wanna pour slab in this cold. And the other thing we've decided to do is to not pour the slab till the spring, till after the roof's on Sheridan. That change alone saved $28,000 with our earthwork price
Okay.
because we had 2 feet of crushed stone underneath
Yeah,
there
now we're gonna
to
have a
deal
floor.
with the frost.
Yeah.
So we could pour the slab, well, by just
It
kicking
gives
it.
your other trades time to get the rough in too.
Yep, we have a lot of underslab roughing, especially in the kitchen, we have a lot.
Yeah.
So we think that about close to 2 months to frame it. It's a very, very sturdy building. If a tornado ever hits this school, the rest of it may fall down, but that building is not gonna fall down. And then get a roof on it, in May, and then from there, once you get a roof on it and you get inside on a slab, it goes crazy after that.
Anyway, you guys should send the school up a set of prints to like keep in the cafeteria, I mean, not in the cafeteria, but in
but if
here.
we haven't, we'll remedy that
Yeah.
immediately.
It would be nice if you could get a set and maybe keep it right in here so that everybody can come in and look, and anybody's free to stop up to my trailer, I mean, I won't bite, you know, I got a little small dog over
Yeah,
here.
wherever you think the best display area.
He won't bite neither, she won't.
I probably talked to Craig and some other teachers and see when the best.
Is there a stat up in the conference room?
No, I haven't seen any in the building. I showed Craig mine, you know, and I think it'd be nice to have this on site. Maybe
Yes.
even the students can look at it.
And, you know, one thing that, I do wanna say, looking at that plan, I don't know if it's clear to everyone that, Carl used the word cafetorium. So beyond this just being a cafeteria, one of the things that, we strove to encompass in the building is that within the space for some of the seating, we've built in a very small stage area and a slightly elevated platform. And I think from the outset, this is as much a community building as a cafeteria for the school. So this is going to be fully air conditioned in the summer because of the mechanical system that we're put in. And the way it's configured, you can have access to it without having to go through the school, turn on the lights in the school, turn on the heat in the school. So in a way, we've built in this standalone community facility in the guise of your cafeteria at the same time. So when you think about it, for the community who voted to fund it, they are getting a facility too, that its usefulness is beyond just serving lunches at the school. And I wonder if when we send the plans, we might be able to send some other imagery. You know, we model all this on a computer and we can show you sort of three-dimensionally the space that you're getting, if that might be of interest to those who
It'd be
use
nice
it.
to have, we could post that.
Yeah. Cause I know it's all very abstract and you're talking about all these numbers right now, which is a really depressing part of it. And, the excitement would be to see what you're getting with the investment that you're making.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Well, I think you've certainly done your due diligence, and we appreciate you coming down.
Thank you very
It's
much
not-
Thank you
for
for
coming.
the opportunity
Thank
to speak with you all.
Sharon, I'd be remiss if I walked out the door without asking, what do you think is next for us? The first thing that Jamie Mahoney, my project manager, is going to ask me tomorrow is, do we have a project? Do you want me to start writing subcontracts, or what should I do, and what should I tell him?
Well, I think Bill, that's your,
Right.
Bill, I would say we need to get it going
We need
on
to
this,
go.
but we need to keep moving forward, we need to go.
Okay.
You know, and I think we've pretty much already said, you know, we just wanna make sure we're clear, this is how much money we have, and
Yep.
we've gotta stay within that. But we need to go because you're exactly right. And by the time you get through submittal process and everything, it's gonna be spring,
Right,
you know.
it's right around the corner.
It's coming.
It is.
I like the temperature out there a
So
whole
we
lot better
should-
than.
We
what's-
should plan on, all that's left right now is this a document called an amendment, it's a GMP amendment.
Yeah.
So we should establish that for the cafetorium, the base bid, and the
Yeah.
mechanical alternate.
Yeah, how about the bathrooms?
It's about 200 and.
So that's not, so it's the
No,
cafeteria, yes, okay.
Bathrooms,
It's a
we're a
So
separate
cafete-
alternate.
So the main thing I would say is the cafeteria, and if you're comfortable with the heating and wanting to issue that, I mean,
We can do phase
The heating
one.
is very important.
We can certainly take care of phase one.
The heating here is
Okay.
antiquated and it's rough.
Yeah.
So, phase one, has that been defined?
No, it hasn't. It was just we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, not quite knowing.
Mm-hmm.
We knew something had hit a snag because we thought we were all systems go, and then Bill said, time out, not so fast. We have folks that we need to answer questions to, and so let me sort that out. And I started thinking about it, and I said, well, I'm always trying to figure out how can we move something forward.
Yep.
And we took a look at it, Greg Hildebrand and I took a look at it, and we haven't consulted with the mechanical contractors or the mechanical designer either, but we said, maybe we can figure out a way that we can just do, there's basically two main wings that we're attacking for the most part. Can we do one this year? When you start to break it down, you lose an economy of scale with that. That would be my only worry.
Well, my suggestion would be you award the whole heating contract, we can stay within this budget and just tell them that they have 2 years to do it.
Okay. Let me see where that will go.
Because I
And if we
think,
got
and
two-
then, but they need to hold the price for the 2 years,
Right.
and that's the
Well,
secret.
that was kind of a given. They knew that it was summer of 2020 and 21. We
Right.
knew that when we solicited
Yeah,
their
they hold their
pricing.
price, and I'm looking at a difference of $10,000 or $20,000 a year under my maintenance. I can pretty well save that much if I have boilers that aren't gonna go down, and I have a control system that controls the heat in this building just in oil.
Right.
I can save a good share
Right.
of that just in operational cost, because the steam is going out the chimney.
Yeah. It sure is going up.
Oh,
the
so
chimney.
we
We
want-
see it every time we drive
Go
in.
through the trap.
And just in the interest of full disclosure, keep in mind, Sharon, that there was an alternate for mechanical upgrades in the classroom wings. Then there's a separate alternate for replacement or upgrade of the boiler, and that's not included in that number. We were asked to break that out separately. So,
And that is the upgrade is of your smaller boiler, I think. You have two.
We have a steam and a hot water.
Right.
Well, I think it's all steam right now, but you have two boilers, and I think my understanding is you primarily use one,
Correct.
and the other one is there to kind of like turbo boost it when you need it.
Right.
But for most of the year, that other boiler remains dormant.
Correct.
That's the one that we were suggesting that if you wanted to, you could expand it to be the same size as the larger one, just to have added capacity.
You mean just add sections to it?
Yes. Yeah. But it's not, that's why we had it as an alternate. You're just switching over the system and making the improvements without adding on that extra section. You're still gonna be gaining efficiency,
Yeah, that's the main thing.
major efficiency.
And that's what we're looking for. is
The
major.
controls, so that, because, every room, depending on its location, the sun, and also teachers in general have a different tolerance, right? And,
Number of kids in
it's,
the class,
it's,
or-
it's, right, it's good to be able to have that control. I know the elementary school is a lot better, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
And we've reduced our fuel consumption in elementary by about 40%.
wow.
So, but understand there's no insulation in the outside walls. There was a heating system that was just running.
So, Bill, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow. We'll need a day or two just to call all the rest of the subs to make sure everybody's still on board. Some of them we haven't talked to in a couple of months, and we'll confirm that with you, and then off we go.
Yes.
Hallelujah. There we go.
Thank you.
Now we know what we're doing.
All right, so, where are we? My agenda.
It's me.
No, 6 is principal.
Oh, 6 is principal. Oh, it's your turn.
Take the small one.
You're up.
You want that?
You're going first. Yes?
Unless you want to say first.
No,
They always
I just listed all of the professional development that we're doing with our staff right now.
thank you. He's doing good, he's coming along.
We're continuing with our reading professional development. Darlene Bass is continuing to visit our school. She's gonna be in our school 2 days a month for the rest of the school year. Something something very exciting. Our 5th grade teacher, Billy Romanelli, he had a few teachers already come and visit his classroom, and now he is actually headed over to Pembroke Elementary School to help guide a new teacher there through their literacy circles. If you remember the last time I gave a report, I said that we were gonna be a hub school, and so that started. We're up and running, and it's pretty exciting for us. Katie, our kindergarten teacher, and Beth, our 2nd grade teacher, are going to be working with Darlene to develop their coaching skills for our guided reading program, so that they can be going out into other schools, and other schools can be coming in to observe them. We just attended a multi-tiered support system conference. This was previously called RTI, which stands for Response Intervention. Did you get it?
Great, thanks.
Sharon? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I had so many papers here, I was.
He kept mine, I was looking for mine, I couldn't find it.
So our RTI is our
Did you
RTI
share one?
team, I guess we're gonna have to change our name, just like everything else that the state does, they change the names of things, basically the same thing, we just have to change our name. We attended a conference in Brewer to help us get our program up and running, and we are happy to say that we're doing some really great stuff. It's always good to go to a conference and you're listening and you're thinking, well, I'm already doing that, we're already doing that, we're already doing that, oh, we're not doing that, but we can't, so it was good encouragement for us, cause we've been working really hard this year to change our Title I program and how it's done. And it was good to hear that we're on the right track, and we got some really great information about what we're going to be doing moving forward. Cheryl Toby is actually with us right now. She is our math coach from Maine Math and Science Alliance. Teachers a couple years ago saw her at the Harvest of Ideas, which they have every year in Machias, and they asked if we could get her in our school, and so I did everything in my power to get her there. And she's scheduled to work with us 11 days this school year, and she's here today and tomorrow. Wellness Day coming up March 20th for all WES staff. Actually, it's all AOS staff. I have some staff who are going to be going to a math training in Auburn. We are able to have all of this professional development because we are a Tier 3 school, which we've talked about in the past. So, although we may be a Tier 3 school and some people think that's a negative title to have, it's really bringing some great resources to our school, and I want you to know that we're utilizing those funds as much as we can. We have a Title I audit coming up on March 23rd, and this is going to require a review of some of our policies. I plan on working on our LAU policy. I brought it to the policy committee tonight. We've got some work to do, so you'll be seeing those coming down probably our next school board meeting to look over those new policies. The flu and cold season hit us pretty hard last week. We're doing a little bit better this week, both students and staff. Last year we did have to report to the CDC with the amount that we had absent, but we were not close enough this year.
That's good.
Yeah, so.
I did have to report on the others.
Yeah, we were just off by 2% points, so we were almost there. A couple more students than we would have had to. And then I just included, we had our celebration a couple weeks ago before the snow melted. The students who were in a positive referral to the office got to go snowshoeing, and that was really fun, so I included a picture of them there. On the back, I usually do introduce a staff member, and I wanted to introduce Tanji Nguyen. She's our new 1st grade teacher this year. She's from Calais, brand new to teaching. This is her 1st year, and she's doing phenomenal. She graduated from the University of Maine at Machias with a bachelor's degree in elementary ed. She worked in Calais at the Head Start program there and at the college daycare. So a lot of the parents and students actually knew her from over there, so that was great. And she is leading a STEM club after school, and I just included a couple pictures there. The kids are really excited about it. She actually had to break it into 2 sessions, and I think she's going to be offering a new session to students after February vacation.
I just wanted to point out that she's very happy to be she's not ashamed to be saying she's 25 years old. When you get to your 50s and stuff, you're not so proud to have that distributed. But anyways, I digress.
You mean we don't put our ages out there when we introduce ourselves anymore?
No?
Doesn't that fall within publicly accessible data, Bill? I think.
I don't know.
We believe in equity around here, don't we?
Yeah.
Was it me?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Cal's game Thursday, we got a 1,000-point watch for one of our young men playing, he's about 14 points off, so.
Ooh.
If everybody could, come on out to the game, it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be packed, especially with half the parking lot gone, but we'll make do, and hopefully Chief Bob won't get on me too bad about packing Main Street across the way.
And the elementary cheerleaders are gonna be there performing.
Yeah, all of
Yes,
us.
The elementary, and there's a competition on Saturday as well.
Yeah.
So,
Is that the one in Augusta?
yes.
Yes.
Yep. So we're wishing everybody well, should be a good couple of events leading up to the tournament, and, hope everybody can come out. Winter Carnival 2, week after, week of February 10th. Some of this, I mean, I just included the schedule here, everybody's welcome to come out, certainly, we've had board presence in the past. Looking to have that continue. I know Jamie's out for a little bit. I'm sure he'll be here for that. Tammy, were you here last time?
I don't know if I think I was for some
Tammy, I
parts
think I
of
saw
it, yeah.
John too, so Pat Sheridan, the pressure's on.
I'm working.
I
Next,
know.
next year.
PD, some kind of fun
Professional
toy
development.
PD, right?
Uh,
I just echo what Mandy said. We've had a lot of kids and some staff out sick. Yesterday we had 44 kids out. The majority of those were illness related. We had 2 staff as well who just kind of went down for the count during the course of the school day, and I said, you have no color, you're going home. So we've got a lot going on. A lot of kids kind of get into school, and they, to their credit, tried to make the effort to get through, and they just, I pulled the nurse back over one day just because one looked like death warmed over, and I said, you need to go home. So that's going on. That too shall pass. Chef trainer, Bill had mentioned that we had lined up, it's Michelle Bisbee, she does the regional trainings for the, for the kitchen staff at various schools. That's gonna be tomorrow, 12:30 to 2:30 over at, Princeton Elementary School.
Yeah.
And in addition, AOS 90 staff, surrounding schools are, like, Callis Elementary's sending 3, Alexander's sending, Eastport sending, Machias.
10:30.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good turnout, so, hoping that'll be productive, and thank Charity for, quote unquote volunteering her school.
Without a choice. Same boss.
Concussions, we are seeing a very high, number of concussions, at school. In addition to just the fact that we have a lot of kids with concussions, the more alarming piece is that, we see the effects in school, and I'm not going to get into what should have been diagnosed or not, but, we encourage parents to take them to be seen either at a clinic or emergency room, get cleared within hours of that, come back into the school, falling asleep, slurring words. Encourage a second opinion. Parents take the second opinion only to find that they're not just mildly concussed, but massively concussed, as in you're gonna be at home for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Bill, and I talked to Megan and John Rogers, and I also talked to the MPA. Mike Burnham is the new executive director there, and he's saying that statewide we're seeing an increase in concussions, but also concussions that are not properly diagnosed. Basically playing out in other schools, just like I described. His recommendation to us, as many other schools are apparently doing, is to form a concussion management team. And we've already started to take the steps on that. Megan Clark, the school nurse, is going to be one of the members. They recommended the AD, which would be John Rogers, and also a teacher, so Keith Moody has stepped forward to volunteer to be part of that, and possibly another medical professional of some kind.
Who would that?
which I'll talk to Doc McHugh if he's interested after the meeting, but, the reason for this is because if we have another way of diagnosing, concussions in-house, the concussion management team, if they suspect that there's a concussion that even, I mean, we had a student go down the stairs not too long ago through no fault of anybody's, just lost balance, went down, knocked himself unconscious for 30 seconds. Went to the hospital, came back, no, you're fine. I'm not a doctor, but that doesn't seem like
No.
something that should be fine. So if we have a team that can kind of take the reins up where this seems to be falling short, they can recommend a mandatory minimum. And we're seeing some through sports, we're also seeing some through flip my snowmobile, or just things that are happening at home that play out in school. And it's scary, and it's, I think, to the point where we need to do something in-house, and the MPA agrees, and I think everybody that I've talked to here locally agrees with that as well. So we're kind of moving forward on that, and I'm just letting you know that's what's going on. You'll see something down there in e-charter, and this is something that Bill and I just talked about today, and I'm still researching. The idea being, we have a number of students that, social anxiety and just generalized anxiety, it's gotten so severe that it's just, you see our attendance challenges, you see our truancy challenges, some of them are related to the fact that it's trying to encourage kids to come back when they have these issues that they're not getting a lot of support from outside of the school. An e-charter is basically an online, it's like videotaping lessons, live broadcast out of classrooms. For students that have diagnosed anxiety disorders or PTSD or say they're out on concussion or something like that, you know, where we could potentially, we have the means to either broadcast or archive those lessons and make them available to students outside of school. Now, this could, if the state agrees to certain parameters in terms of how we track attendance with their login through Google Classroom, which is where these would be archived, it might alleviate some of our stress with truancy and attendance, but also provide a resource to these kids to maintain their education outside of school until they can receive some relief with these conditions such that they're ready to come back into school. Or if we have students that have major medical issues that they're just gonna be out for a while, we wouldn't have to, you know, graduation wouldn't necessarily be a risk to a student at that point. We could maintain their education, provide a resource to them, while at the same time addressing their attendance and truancy. So, Bill gave me the go-ahead to research this. I'll keep people posted about what that means as we go, as I find out more. But I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea, and it goes to a point where, as we talk about our 279, which I'm going to give you the draft copy that came out of the state recently for funding. Our dollars for income depend upon enrollment. More enrollment, more dollars. Our enrollment for Baileyville residents is up 17 over last couple of years ago. We're up a lot more than that. The rest of the students we're up are in about 10 township students who are now here paying tuition. Tuition count is not included in this count. But at any point in time we have an enrolled student, it's counted. So rather than have a student drop because they have some medical issue or something else going on that they're unable to attend, be able to live in that program and keep them enrolled in our program allows us to have that student count. If we were approved and I could enroll even on a part-time basis a homeschool student, I can count them for the period of time that they're enrolled in courses on my enrollment.
Percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise, thus taking the state paid for that and providing a service that they may not have access to right now. So, I think there's an opportunity in two different ways. Supporting our students who may have issues, students who may take ill, students who may break arms or legs and be out for a period of time. And we can provide direct instruction right from the classroom, on time, if we want to, or delayed to their home or to their bed, whatever the case might be, or if they're homeschool students who want to pick up a course. So, great opportunity there. Want to go a little further, if we can get that approved and we have a way to track attendance for it, I think we're in good stead. And then we'll take it one step further. If we can do that and track attendance appropriately, we can eliminate snow days. Think about that.
The last thing I just wanted to say, the teachers have been doing a great job. This was a year that we were going to tweak the schedule. And, we've kind of gone to the teachers, we've gone to the well a number of times asking, well, could you try teaching this or could you try teaching that? A lot of new courses introduced this year. The teachers have done a great job. They've been more than obliging. Sometimes, like, I can't believe you're asking me to teach this too, but they've been good about it. They do it for the kids, and I really appreciate all the work that they put in on this, and their patience with me and Janice while we put our mad scientist hats on, trying to configure new ideas into the schedule. They've been very patient, and I appreciate everything that they've done. Oh, we have LGBTQ on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Later.
Yeah.
Oh, can I just say something at your report, because I think you probably wrote your report beforehand, but we had a large showing of DAC All-Stars
Oh.
mentioned today. And Missy Campbell got Coach of the Year for the cheering, so it's good stuff.
Might be
Yeah.
one of the emails I haven't gotten to yet, but I will include it in the next board report, absolutely.
Okay, Superintendents Report. In front of you, you have the expenditure report for January. I'll briefly go over that. In your packet is the expenditure report through the end of January 31, 2020. That's the close of the 7th month. We're closing out a year faster than I'd like to think. From this point on, the percentages have a propensity to change a little bit, but not significantly. At the end of the 7th month, that means that 58.33% have passed and that 41.77% is left. So far right-hand column is a percentage remaining in that account. If you're looking for numbers less than 41.77, that may have not have been a one-time expenditure, i.e. insurance or something else, or a quarterly cost that's been paid. That would give you a reason why there might be 1% left or nothing left in it. You're looking at the general accounts that are done on a regular basis. Our total budget was $5,357,459. Expenditures to date is $2,573,686.40, or 49%. We would have expected to have spent 58. We're at 49. We're doing well. We don't want to lose that, and we want to keep it going in that direction, because as we go forward, it may help us complete some of the things we need to complete. And it's that. Now, as far as the 279, without having 2 years, it's difficult to tell where you're at and what's happening. So this first one we give you is this present year's funding. And the second one will be proposed at this point in time, although just a draft, of next year's funding. I think I got one extra. No, I got 2 extras. I got the original. I'm good. And this one, let's see if I'm on, is next year's funding. Now, in next year's funding, there are a couple of things that are yet to be adjusted that I can point out as we go through it very, very quickly. But side by each will give you kind of a comparison of what that means. So, if you lay them side by each, in 1920, when you look at student count, you notice that we have only October counts. We used to have an October and an April and an average. Now we just do an October count. So anything that happens after the 1st of October doesn't count. So if kids move in, we don't get anything for them until a year later. They could be here for a year and a half or more before we see an impact. On the other hand, if the child leaves after October 1, the same is true. So at that point in time, in 1920, we were 323. We're now 327.5. That's a running average. And those are only resident students. They do not include any tuition students. We like tuition students because obviously that's capital income. Now, those numbers make the percentages in the next section for staff positions change. So you can look at any one of them, and if you go across basically to the percent, it says actual total FTE. In 1920 for teachers they were 28.9, and now in reality we only have 27.1. So we actually did a reduction in that process, but the EPS, percentage of EPS, because you have to have 15 to 1, 17 to 1, or 16 to 1 in ratios, did go from 71% to 74%. So we reduced the staff, it increased the percentage of EPS, so it increases the income for that. So you go all the way to the right. Last year was 439, next year is 455. So there's a balance in that process. And the same is true if something else changes and your numbers don't meet a particular level, the percentage that EPS is set up, your values will go down, or your percentage will go down, and then your value will go down. In the computation of benefits, there's no significant changes. In reality, you'll find that on one side, elementary went down a little bit, secondary went up, and that's again the staffing ratio. And then under other supports, it's based on a student count times an amount that the state has designated as a cost. And then you get amounts to the right. In fact, I have a cheat sheet. We'll make this process go even faster so that we can still catch the president's speech at 9 o'clock. So, total population up 17, the average was 4, I just pointed it out. And then you get to the bottom of the page, there's an EPS rate. And it's basically a division factor into those costs above to figure out what value the essential programs and services model should put behind each student based upon those ratios that they described above and the percentage of costs that they'll actually cover. And I could argue with some of those things, but not here and now. So in the elementary school, the EPS rate at the bottom page went from 64.93 to this year 66.85. That number is used as a multiplier later, so it's important when it goes up. High school 69.35 to 71.35. So the total operating allocation went from 1.974 to 2.095 and change. And when you go to the next page, that covers program costs for basic count. So at the top we have the operating costs, again based on student numbers. And then we have a breakout of K4 students, the number of students, and then using that EPS rate, which went from 64 to 66, and it changes the end result from 84 to 113. And you can follow that down through on the weighted allocations, but the bigger that EPS number, the bigger that number is going to be on the right. Yeah. And so when we get to the bottom of the page, over all of those plus the targeted funds, we have to be careful about how we spend. We went from 1974 to 2095. All looking good so far. The bad news is coming.
Uh-oh.
Okay, the next section covers the other program costs, gifted and talented, special ed, transportation, and high out-of-district costs, and approved bus allocations. So in those areas, basically gifted and talented is about the same. We actually spent a little less, and you only got 1.02%, 102.2% more than your expenditures, so we're still running pretty close. The special ed allocation looked at our cost. They upped the funding from 52% to 55%, so it was about a 3% increase in funding allocations. So that went up in return. And then the next line is zero, and I've got it kind of starred, because that isn't calculated until March, and that's the high special ed out-of-district cost. So if we have a student that exceeds 2 times our tuition, we get a percentage of that back, and we won't see that, that's why this is a draft, until later, but it'll be about the same. Last year it was $26,724, and you'll see that come back in the next round. Transportation's up a little bit, and the approved allocation on the base year for the bus is down just a little bit. So the total went from 623 to 714, and then we have teacher retirement nominal cost. That went up just a little bit because it goes up with salary and it's based on a percentage. We pay about 6% nominated cost. There's a bill in the legislature to remove that from your cost and put it back on the state where it belongs, and then you would get those dollars. But right now, you lose it. And so at that point, the bottom of the page, we've gone from 2.6 to almost 2.9, 2.897. All right. Then, the whole funding formula is based upon the town's value. And the mill rate that the state needs to raise in order to fund the 50% or 55% of the cost of education. So when the town's value goes up, then the town's share or allocation of the cost goes up too. So if you look at the valuation in 1920, it was $240,250,000. It went to $275,416,000. So it grew by about $35 million. The mill rate expectation went from 8.48 down to 8.15. So that means, yes, mills went down, so if you had the same value, your local cost would go down. But when your local value goes up, even though the mill goes down, your local cost goes up. So when you go across, the expected was 1.989, and now the expected local is 2.252. Now, that seems to be a problem, but in all reality, based upon the fact that we always raise above allocation, it won't have a significant impact on us because the budget will be what it is. But the state contribution went from $693 down to $644, so basically we lost about $39,000 in state money. And that's the worst case part of it. When we get to the bottom line, we went on the state side after the adjustment from $653 down to $644, or $9,158 lost in state funding, and we already raised more than the 2.2 in local, so that has no effect on us. So minimal change from this year. We know we're working through the budget. We have some increased costs. Obviously salary, insurance, and some of those things have increases that have a nominal effect. As we're budgeting, we're looking at about 5% on health insurance and about 5% on other insurances for increases. And then we have a step increase for the contract, and then that some changes in staffing. Some of those things will equal out. We haven't gotten to the bottom, but I hope to be able to bring you a draft budget early in the next month. And it'll be a rough draft, and we'll collect all of the wants and needs in the buildings, and we'll put that together, and then we'll start to worry about how much money there is and what we can afford to pay for. So that's where we're at with that. Last but not least.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
No. Yes, you can, Doc.
Baileyville valuation, 240 million.
Yep.
What year was that?
Basically, that's a 3-year running average. So it's the last year or the average of the past 3 years.
Okay,
Okay.
it went up to 275, and I'm trying to figure out,
35 million.
It went up
I
35
understand
million.
that.
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out when the 240 was calculated.
It would have been the previous 3 years prior to that. It would have been an average of the previous 3 years. All right? Follow me?
Sort of.
And then it had an increase, and over a 3-year period of time, the averages should catch up with themselves and it should level unless there's continued growth. So if nothing changed in 3 years, by the 4th year, you're gonna be valued basically the same as you were the 3rd year. But if you have growth, that 4th year will continue to show some change. May not be as significant based on whatever the growth value is, the mill, obviously, how the impact runs. All right? Clear as mud, right? Okay. All right. I'll give you one or two, it's up there. Yeah. Yeah, I got a couple of those left. At least 3. Looks like. Yeah. I talked about the SRRF projects. That's the small revolving renovation fund the state puts out. I actually, between the 2 districts, put in 9 applications. Took me about 3 weeks to write it. And if you read through it, it says, I'm pleased to inform you that under the renovation fund applications, project 1441, 1444, and 1445 have been approved for funding. For funding amounts listed at the attached eligibility certificates, the loan processing projects must be initiated within 30 days. So this letter was January 31st, so basically I got until March 2nd or 3rd to initiate the process, if we want to go forward with any of them. Now, to give you an idea what they are, and the next one, the first one is life safety, and that was a health safety issue that has to do with the sprinkler system that we decided basically not to do. So, 1441 is basically one that's low on our priority list because there's no requirement for us to do it. Priority number 2, taken directly from the estimate that was provided by the early part phases of estimates by Nick O'Day, was $872,312 for the structures, the doors, the windows, water, septic, anything along with, and that has to do with the infiltration of mold downstairs. And that was $872,300. No, it doesn't have the infiltration mold. It's the outside of the building that may have mold. Excuse me. $872,312. Portion of the loan forgiven. In other words, they pay it is $261,694. Our portion would be $610,618. It's a 10-year loan, basically $61,000 a year, no interest. All right, and then the last one should be in there. You have it? Yeah, I got it. There. It was in between. No.
No.
What did I do with it? It isn't attached to somebody's. I didn't staple it in somebody else's. It was for $222,000, and it is for the mold room downstairs.
Remediation.
Yeah, remediation. It's in here, right? Yeah, you got it. No, we don't have
And I
it.
don't have it.
All right, I still somewhere in my paperwork here. It was $222. It was approved. Again, 30% forgiven. That one's a 5-year because it's less than $500,000 payback, and so I'll get that to you. But
It'll be 180,000 or so.
and 100. It was no, it was less than that. It was 212, 5 years. Again, 50.
170.
No, 5 and the 200. 5
You
and
said
the 200.
30%, right?
It's 30% gone, yes, thank you, 30% gone, so it means that we'd actually be bonding, 150,
Yeah.
and our payment would be over 5 years, 15,000 a year. No,
No,
30,000 a year,
30,000 a year.
so.
So 30,000 plus 60,000, so you're looking at $91,000 a
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
One
One for
after
5.
5 years, and then 61,000 after
Correct.
that.
correct.
Is that something we could do within our budget?
That's what I'm gonna work through, and I'm working with Christie, and we'll start to put those figures in and see what we can do within the budget. That's why I wanna have at least a draft out there in the next month, so that we have 30 days to make a decision to move this forward. I can start to move it forward in reality and then withdraw it, but
Right.
I wouldn't. I can do that.
We need at least
Well, I can,
start the process, right?
I can go ahead and start the process if I can have a vote to start the process, and your permission to do that, I'd be more than willing.
It doesn't
to do
lock
that.
us in.
Doesn't lock us in. And in reality, I'm only looking at the 2 because we've already made a decision that sprinkler system, since it is,
Not
we are
required.
grandfathered, not required, that we're not going in that direction.
Right.
So you're looking at this
The
second,
mold,
Windows and
third
doors and mold,
mold,
which I think are 2 pretty
really,
strong priorities.
right?
So I make a motion, we, start the ball rolling on the school revolving renovation fund eligibility.
Second it,
For the windows and doors and for the
Yeah.
mold.
mold.
right,
Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
all right, that takes care of it. Thank you. Keeps me busy,
Yeah.
off the street.
Well, let's not go that far.
You still have room in your schedule?
I'm telling you, it's filling up, but that's okay.
All right, are you done?
I'm all done. AOS meeting. The AOS met and proposed a budget which was approved, and the budget has some changes in it. And to give you an idea what those changes look like, it's probably not surprising that the workload, especially on this side of the district, has gone up significantly. I could easily spend 5 days here between, not picking on anybody, between the schools, the high school specifically, and its needs, the construction projects, and on this side, I have 3 school boards that meet regularly. I have Baileyville, Princeton, and East Orange, all that meet regularly. On the other side of the district, I have a board that meets once a month. And then I have the other boards, just like I do here. I've got 5 other boards that meet once or twice a year, on this side the same way. That's Cooper, Medivance, Grand Lake Stream, Talmadge, and Lee. So, looking at that, we proposed 1.5 superintendents for next year within the AOS budget. Meaning it'd be a half-time person on the other end, full-time person on this end to help accomplish all that's going on. The second thing we proposed is we looked at special ed counts. And on this side right now, the caseload is about 150, including the 504s. And on the other side, it's 50. Looking at that, it made no sense to keep 2 full-time special ed people. We've cut the other one to 1/2. They'll be teaching part-time, special ed director the other half-time. We'll still be doing the special ed for, overseeing special ed for Lee Academy. They pay us to do that. And we will continue on the other side to do the accounting for Lee Academy. Those 2 things pay the AOS $50,000 income that I created a couple of years ago. Another pebble, but the lake's got waves. So those 2 things are going to impact a little bit. The ad for the full-time superintendent will go in tomorrow in the serving schools.
When do they plan on, and I think that your plan is to become the part-time superintendent?
My plan is to go to part-time, but I know, as soon as I'm sitting here, that whomever comes into this side for a period of probably the next year is going to need assistance, or at least guidance, direction, and help from time to time. And in that process, I've said I'm more than willing, as a part of that half-time position, to give that time. I need the 2 days over there for sure, 3rd day from time to time.
when do you think this will be implemented? What is-
July 1, we're hoping for. It's in the next fiscal budget. But AOS budget in total has a change of $24,000, basically, 24.5. That's the increase.
The whole AOS budget?
Whole AOS budget. Impact, I guess. Budget's up more than that, but the impact.
Right. Well, we're gonna miss you, but we understand.
Well,
I
it
agree that.
it shortens my transportation up significantly, and it allows me to sleep at home 5 nights or 7 nights a week. I shouldn't say 5, 7 nights a week, which is a benefit to the other half of my family.
Right.
So
We
that's-
understand.
That's why. I've enjoyed it, and don't believe me, I
I don't know
have
how
a
you've
real-
done the whole AOS.
I'm not,
I don't-
I'm not done, no.
I mean, I don't know how you've
well,
done it all with,
It's been an interesting process, and quite frankly, you never quit learning in your life, and this has been quite an education so far. I've never had to work with.
You can drive Route 6 with your eyes closed.
I can, and I've never had to work with, I've had boards with 23 board members on it, but I've never had 90 board members before. Sometimes I go to a meeting and they've changed. So I don't know who's gonna show up, especially in small towns.
yeah.
So that,
Well, thank you.
those are the things you learn that you never wanted to know in the first place.
Hopefully we'll get quite a few applicants.
And if you don't, you'll be stuck with me again anyway, so one way or another, you're gonna be covered.
Great. After school, number 9, after school food
Okay.
program.
We talked about this back a while ago, and basically this is the public hearing, I have to post it as a public hearing. The after-school food program is, if we decide to provide after-school educational opportunities for students and other programs, like daycare programs, we, under federal law, are to provide a hot lunch program, or choose not to provide a hot lunch, a meal, a late afternoon meal after school, or an after-school snack that includes all the components of a meal. Your cost of doing that exceeds any income that would come in significantly. So my recommendation to you is that we opt out, I need a vote, a motion and a vote, to opt out of an after-school food program for at-risk students. And at-risk means anybody that's on free and reduced lunch.
Does it affect any other kind of funding?
Nope, there's no effect on any other funding, and there's a
Sometimes they
small
tie
amount of
stuff
money that
together
comes
so
in, but
that-
not enough to cover the cost.
Right.
And this is happening statewide, it was a federal ruling, we have to actually go through a process in order to vote up or down on it. And my recommendation is it will not serve a useful purpose to us.
Have a motion?
Make a motion that we opt out of the after-school food program for the at-risk students?
I second.
Moving to second, any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Number 10, LGBTQ student organization.
You're up.
Yeah, so I got tired of Mandy always putting her, and I actually brought one. Actually, she volunteered to come here tonight on her own, but this is Jillian Jacobs. She's one of our new teachers. She's our new high school English teacher, and she's doing a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Huh?
It's a thank you.
That shouldn't be a surprise. You're doing a fabulous job. One of the things that's impressed me about Jillian is she's really kind of digging in, and she wants to add something to the school. We have kind of what's the right way to put this, Lori? Certainly a population of students that I think would benefit from having this club. They've already kind of informally organized, and it's been a kind of a safe place for kids to discuss and to share with each other. What I'm looking for here is I'd like to adopt this officially as a group so that we can do some fundraising, and we can kind of, if there is fundraising, include those funds in an account managed by the school. And Jillian right now is volunteering her time. There's no stipend attached to this. I would ask that we could include it for next year. I think this is a good group managed by a go-getter teacher, and I'd just like to make sure that the board is on board and adopts it as a continuing group.
So do we need to make a motion to accept it as a new
Yeah.
student
Yes.
organization?
What?
Is there any particular process to creating an organization other than a vote?
No. It really needs your approval in order to set it up and to actually have it as an account so they can actually raise funds if they choose to do fundraisers or things.
What
like that.
exactly are they doing? What is this?
Supporting one another.
Jillian's right there, I'll let her explain.
Yeah, so our goal is just to kind of provide support, awareness, and empower our LGBT students. We also want to involve our straight and cis students in supporting their peers. So we have fun activities from movie and TV night, hopefully being able to bring in parents if they want to be involved in their students' lives with regards to after school activities, arts and murals celebrating diversity and inclusivity, activism, so working with the color march that's going to happen in April, volunteering for local charities if possible. I know one of the very first things that the students brought up to me was that they wanted to put on a pride parade in Baileyville. So they are willing and ready to organize things and be a positive force in the community. So that, and just making sure they feel supported, because I've had all of them say that this is something that they look forward to all week. Every week.
So do you have, like, after school, you have meetings?
Yeah.
How many kids are involved in this?
Currently 5. We have another student who's actually at Princeton who's interested in busing in to come after school and receive that kind of support too.
I think if we had this safe place for those conversations to occur, I don't wanna get into too many details, but there are a number of other students that aren't factored in there that I think are in kind of in the
Right.
process of struggling with some of these identity matters, and I think we may see a rise in that number. But even if we have 5, I think that's,
It's important
So
to those 5 students.
You would be, like, you would take care of the money, you'd have your own account, you'd be a treasurer type of,
Yeah.
overseer and
Absolutely.
the funds still get, right now Michelle Barnard is the treasurer, so that would be an account that Michelle would
a different
would
account that
manage.
she would
If there
manage,
were-
okay.
If there were funds raised, she would say, here, Michelle, take the money and deposit it.
How often do you guys meet?
Once a week. So we meet actually on Tuesdays, so we met earlier.
That's a good idea.
I make a motion that this becomes a new student organization with the ability to set up a fund. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but
Yeah, and just also to include the potential stipend or have it be one of the groups included.
to look at it for next year's budget,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
yes.
Motion, do I have a second? Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, number 11, resignation of Christine's Hotel.
All right, please accept this letter as a formal notification that I'm resigning from my position as music teacher at AOS 90 effective January 24th, 2020. I'd like to personally thank the administration and staff at Woodland Schools. My 14 years of employment have both been rewarding and enjoyable. The staff community are incredible supportive of our program. The decision to leave was most definitely a difficult one. Please know that my reason for leaving is only to stay home and care for my daughter, and I am beyond appreciative for my time at Woodland. Sincerely, Christine's Hotel. Please accept the school's resignation with regret. Will be a good music teacher.
I make a motion to accept Christine's resignation with regret.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Yep. In your packet is the K policies. The committee has gone over the K policies. We presented them for first reading at the last meeting, and we look for acceptance at this meeting.
So the dress code policy was popped out of that last time because there was gonna be
Right, and we kind
stuff
of
changed and.
carried it because we need to look into something that came up tonight, and I can't remember right off the top of my head what it was, but we're going back to it one more time.
Okay.
here, cause it had never, the day that we looked at it, there was no one here from the high school, so I just wanted some input from
Well, Lori
high
was
school.
here the day that we,
I think they
Well,
meant
administration,
administration, cause I can't.
so I
think
just
it was-
wanted.
well, yeah, I just know that 2 weeks ago when it was taken out, Dan said he was gonna tweak something in it, and then you guys were supposed to get it back today to review, so,
And
I-
we did, and then we ran into,
Another
Pat
question.
Pat had asked for me to go back to teachers and get feedback about how this may play out, and I did
Yeah.
that, and there were some dynamics that came up that need some further discussion.
right.
okay.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the second reading of the K policies as presented.
Moved. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you.
Alright, 13 was moved up. I need a motion to enter executive session.
Do we
For
wanna
personnel
set
issue.
the, date for the next meeting?
Next day, meeting would be March the 2nd. No,
No,
excuse me,
February.
February. That's the question, thank you.
Yeah, cause
Right.
it
Is it
falls over
during,
vacation.
It's during football, basketball week.
Yeah,
yes.
so it's school vacations.
Um,
So do you wanna do it March? Do you wanna skip the
Well,
next meeting or do
we
you?
can do either. The two choices would be, February 26th, which is a Wednesday, because Tuesday the 25th, which would be the next Tuesday after vacation, I have a SAD 30 board meeting. And I'm on the other side Monday, Tuesday, and I'm here Wednesday. So we could do it the 26th, or we could go to the 2nd, which is the very next meeting.
If we did it the 26th, you'd be meeting in less than a week to get back on. Do you think we're going to?
Well, I'm saying, I just think we might as well just wait until March. Yeah.
March 2 will be the next meeting.
I don't think there's
March
any
3rd.
precedent. By that
March
time,
3rd,
you
March
should,
3rd, thank
you
you.
should have a preliminary budget
Yeah,
for us.
and then I'll be
right?
working on a preliminary budget.
So, March 3rd.
This
Okay,
year be so bad.
without further ado, I would entertain a, motion to go into executive session for personnel.
Make a motion to enter executive session.
All in favor? Thank you.
Sheridan, you want me to hit the button on this?
Yeah, there's a,
Button there, it's not white.
there's a button there. I think if you just hit that
It was.
I think so.
forward button.
I don't know what to do with it.